Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to share with you a truth so profound, it will challenge how you see yourself and your journey. You are not just existing, you are being crafted. Right now, this very moment, God is sculpting you into a masterpiece. God is the ultimate sculptor, the master artisan of the universe, shaping lives with intentionality and purpose. In His infinite wisdom, He sees what no one else can potentially bury beneath layers of doubt, pain, and imperfection. He does not see us as we are, but as what we can become. Where others see flaws and failures, He sees the beginnings of a masterpiece waiting to emerge. Consider a block of marble. To the untrained eye, it looks like a dull, lifeless mass. But to a master sculptor, it is filled with potential. The sculptor doesn't merely see the stone, they envision what it can become, a work of art that will stand the test of time. God looks at us in much the same way. He sees the masterpiece hidden within each of us, even when we feel ordinary, incomplete, or broken. From the beginning of creation, God has demonstrated His skill as the ultimate sculptor. He took the dust of the earth and formed humanity, breathing life into what was once lifeless. This is not just a creation story, it is a reflection of how He works in our lives every day. He takes what seems insignificant, molds it, and infuses it with divine purpose. Every trial, every triumph, every moment in between, He uses them all to shape us into something extraordinary. Yet the process of sculpting is not a simple or painless one. A sculptor uses tools like chisels, hammers, and blades to chip away at the stone, removing everything that does not belong. It is a process of subtraction, not addition. In the same way, God allows certain experiences in our lives, some joyful, others challenging, not to harm us, but to refine us. The pain of a broken relationship, the loss of a loved one, or the weight of a seemingly insurmountable challenge may feel like strikes against us. But in the hands of God, even the hardest blows are purposeful, removing the rough edges and revealing the beauty within. Michelangelo, one of history's greatest sculptors, once said that every block of stone has a statue inside it, and it is the task of the sculptor to discover it. This truth mirrors the way God works in our lives. He is not creating something new out of us, He is revealing what He has already placed within us. The gifts, the talents, the resilience, they are already there, waiting to be uncovered. But it takes time, patience, and faith in the sculptor's vision to bring them to light. The beauty of God's work lies in His precision and care. A sculptor doesn't rush the process, nor does God. He takes His time, working on every detail with intention. Sometimes we may feel that progress is slow, that the chiseling away of our old selves is taking too long. We may wonder why certain prayers go unanswered or why we face repeated challenges. But just as a sculptor does not abandon the marble halfway through, God does not leave His work unfinished. He is committed to shaping us into the people He has called us to be, no matter how long it takes. One of the most remarkable aspects of God as the ultimate sculptor is His ability to work with imperfections. Human sculptors choose the finest materials, the best marble, or the smoothest clay. But God works with whatever is available. He takes the broken, the flawed, the rejected, and turns them into vessels of honor. In His hands, our weaknesses become strengths, our scars become stories of redemption, and our failures become stepping stones to greatness. Furthermore, a sculptor does not sculpt for the stone's benefit alone, but for the masterpiece to reflect the artist's skill and vision. Similarly, God shapes us not just for our sake, but to reflect His glory. Our lives are meant to be testimonies of His grace, love, and power. When people look at us, they should see evidence of His work, a reflection of His character, and a testament to His ability to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. It is crucial to trust the sculptor's hands, even when the process feels uncomfortable or confusing. We may not always understand why certain parts of our lives are being stripped away or why we must endure particular hardships. But faith in God's vision allows us to endure, knowing that the end result will be worth it. When the sculpting is complete, the masterpiece does not boast of its own greatness. Instead, it points back to the artist who created it. In the same way, our lives are not about glorifying ourselves, but about glorifying the one who shaped us. Every challenge we overcome, every victory we achieve, and every transformation we experience is a reflection of God's handiwork. God is not just sculpting us, He is sculpting us into masterpieces. He takes the raw material of our lives and, through His infinite love and wisdom, reveals beauty, purpose, and significance. Trust the process, trust the pain, and above all, trust the sculptor. For in His hands, you are becoming a work of art that will inspire, uplift, and glorify the Creator forever. The raw material represents the starting point of every masterpiece, the unrefined substance waiting to be shaped and transformed. It may appear ordinary, flawed, or insignificant to the untrained eye, but it is precisely what a master sculptor needs to create something extraordinary. In the hands of God, our lives, with all their imperfections and untapped potential, serve as this raw material filled with divine purpose and possibility. Every masterpiece begins in a state that seems far from its final form. A block of marble is rough and unshaped, lacking the elegance and detail of a finished sculpture. Yet, within it lies everything needed to create a work of art. The sculptor does not lament the stone's imperfections, instead they see its potential. In the same way, God looks at us not for who we are in our unfinished state, but for who we are destined to become. He knows that the raw material of our lives contains everything necessary for His vision to come to life. The purpose of the raw material is to be transformed. Its current state is not its final state, and its value is not determined by its initial appearance. Too often, we judge ourselves or others based on what we see on the surface. We focus on our weaknesses, failures, and limitations, forgetting that transformation is a process. God, however, sees beyond the surface. He sees the potential in our brokenness, the beauty in our flaws, and the strength hidden beneath our struggles. In the journey of life, the raw material serves as a starting point for growth and development. Just as a sculptor must chip away at the marble to reveal the statue within, God uses the experiences of our lives to refine and shape us. Challenges, disappointments, and setbacks may feel like harsh strikes against us, but they are essential parts of the process. Without them, the masterpiece within us would remain hidden. The raw material, the chiseling, not because it is unworthy, but because it is being prepared for greatness. It is important to recognize that the raw material is never without purpose, even in its unrefined state. Before the sculpting begins, the marble already holds value because of what it can become. Similarly, our lives hold inherent worth and potential from the moment of creation. God has placed within each of us unique gifts, talents, and qualities that are waiting to be brought to the surface. Even when we feel unworthy or inadequate, we must remember that God has chosen us as His raw material, and He does not make mistakes. The purpose of the raw material is also to demonstrate the skill of the sculptor. A master artisan does not choose perfect materials to work with, they choose materials that allow their skill to shine. The more challenging the raw material, the more impressive the final masterpiece. In the same way, God's greatness is revealed through His ability to transform the broken, the flawed, and the imperfect. When others see the transformation in our lives, they witness the power and grace of the Creator. Furthermore, the raw material serves as a reminder that transformation is a process, not an instant event. The sculptor does not complete their work in a single moment. They carefully and deliberately shape the stone, step by step, until the masterpiece emerges. Similarly, God works on us patiently and lovingly. We may not see immediate results, but every step of the journey is part of His plan. The process requires trust in the sculptor's vision and in his ability to bring it to completion. Another aspect of the raw material's purpose is to embrace its own transformation. The stone does not resist the chisel, it submits to the hands of the sculptor. In our lives, we must also be willing to surrender to God's shaping. This means letting go of pride, fear, and resistance, trusting that every cut and every strike is for our good. It means allowing God to remove the parts of us that no longer serve His purpose, even when it feels uncomfortable or painful. Ultimately, the raw material is not defined by what it was, but by what it becomes. A block of marble, once shaped, is no longer referred to as just a block. It becomes a statue, a work of art, a masterpiece. In the same way, our past mistakes, failures, and imperfections do not define us. Through God's transforming power, we are made new, becoming reflections of His glory and instruments of His purpose. The beauty of the raw material lies in its potential. It is a starting point, not an end point. It holds within it the promise of something greater, something extraordinary. In God's hands, the raw material of our lives is never wasted. Every flaw, every weakness, every rough edge is part of His plan to create a masterpiece that will inspire and uplift others. Trust the process, trust the sculptor, and trust that within you lies everything needed to fulfill the purpose for which you were created. The process of transformation is often painful, yet it is through this pain that growth, refinement, and beauty emerge. When we consider the metaphor of a sculptor working on a block of marble, the imagery is strikingly clear. Each strike of the hammer, each cut of the chisel removes something from the stone. To the untrained eye, it might seem destructive, but to the sculptor, every strike is purposeful, aimed at revealing the masterpiece hidden within. In the same way, the pain we experience in life is not arbitrary. It is part of God's divine process of shaping us into the people we are meant to be. Pain is an unavoidable aspect of transformation. Growth never comes without challenge, and progress never comes without sacrifice. Just as a caterpillar must struggle to emerge from its cocoon to become a butterfly, we must endure seasons of difficulty to step into the fullness of our potential. This truth is not easy to accept in the moment. When we are in the midst of trials, it is tempting to question why we must endure them. It can feel as though life is breaking us apart, chipping away at our dreams and leaving us vulnerable. However, the very act of being broken is often the key to becoming whole. The pain of the process is necessary because it removes what no longer serves us. A sculptor does not randomly chip away at marble. They have a clear vision of what needs to be removed to be revealed the beauty within. In our lives, this may mean letting go of habits, relationships, or mindsets that hinder our growth. The process can feel like loss, but in reality, it is liberation. By removing the unnecessary, God makes room for what is essential. Every difficult experience, though painful, is an opportunity for refinement, a chance for us to become more aligned with His purpose for our lives. It is important to remember that the pain is not meant to destroy us, but to develop us. A sculptor does not strike the marble to break it into useless fragments. They strike it to bring out its full potential. Similarly, God allows challenges in our lives not to harm us, but to prepare us for the future. The trials we face often build the strength, resilience, and character we need to fulfill our purpose. They teach us lessons we could not learn in comfort, and they shape us into vessels capable of carrying out God's plans. The pain of the process also teaches us to trust the sculptor. When we cannot see the final outcome, it is easy to feel discouraged or disoriented. We may question why certain hardships are happening or why certain prayers seem unanswered. Yet, just as the marble cannot comprehend the sculptor's vision, we cannot always understand God's plan. Faith requires us to trust that He knows what He is doing, even when we do not. It is in surrendering to His hands that we find peace amid the pain. Another aspect of the pain is that it prepares us to reflect God's glory. A rough, unpolished stone cannot shine. It is only through the refining process, through cutting, smoothing, and polishing, that the stone becomes radiant. Likewise, the pain we endure allows God's light to shine through us. When others see how we have overcome challenges and emerged stronger, they witness the power and grace of the one who shaped us. Our struggles become testimonies of His faithfulness and instruments of hope for others. The pain of the process is also a reminder that we are not finished yet. Masterpieces take time to create, and the process is rarely linear. There will be moments of progress and moments of setback. Times when the sculpting feels purposeful and times when it feels like chaos. But through it all, the sculptor does not abandon the work. God's commitment to us is unwavering. He continues to shape us even when we feel unworthy or incomplete. His vision for our lives is far greater than anything we could imagine for ourselves. In the end, the pain of the process is what makes the final masterpiece so valuable. Without the sculptor's effort, the block of marble remains unremarkable. It is the chiseling, the refining, and the shaping that give it worth. Similarly, our pain, while difficult, is not wasted. Every trial, every setback, and every challenge contributes to past beats God is creating within us. Though the process may hurt, it is a sign that we are being worked on by the greatest artist of all. God does not leave us in our raw state. He is continually shaping us into reflections of His love and glory. The pain we endure is not the end of the story. It is a vital part of the journey toward becoming everything He has called us to be. So when the chiseling feels relentless and the weight of the process feels overwhelming, take heart. The pain you feel is the evidence of God's work, and in His hands, you are becoming a masterpiece. Patience is a virtue often tested during the journey of transformation. When we talk about being sculpted by God, it's easy to focus on the vision of the finished masterpiece, the beauty, purpose, and fulfillment that awaits. However, the process of reaching that final state requires time, perseverance, and above all, patience. The journey is rarely swift, and the progress may often seem slow or invisible. Yet, it is in the waiting in the process that God does some of His most profound work in our lives. The sculpting of a masterpiece is not a rushed endeavor. No skilled sculptor takes shortcuts when crafting something extraordinary, and God is no different. His timing is perfect, and His methods are intentional. Each moment of our lives is a stroke of His chisel, carefully shaping us into the people He has called us to be. But this process cannot be hurried. Growth, transformation, and refinement take time. Impatience can tempt us to abandon the journey prematurely, but patience allows us to trust in God's timing and His ability to bring His vision for our lives to completion. One of the greatest challenges of patience is enduring seasons when progress seems invisible. It can feel like we are stuck waiting for something to happen or change. In those moments, it's easy to grow frustrated, questioning whether God is still working or if He has forgotten us altogether. Yet beneath the surface, He is always at work. Just as a seed must be buried in the soil before it sprouts. Much of God's work in our lives happens in unseen, quiet places. These seasons of waiting are not wasted. They are times of preparation, strengthening, and alignment. Patience also teaches us to surrender control. In a world that values instant gratification, waiting can feel like losing power over our circumstances. But the truth is, patience is not passivity. It is an active trust in God's sovereignty. When we choose to be patient, we acknowledge that God's perspective is greater than ours. We let go of the need to dictate the timeline or outcome, and we allow Him to lead. This surrender is not easy, but it is necessary for true transformation. Consider the life of a sculptor. They approach their work with a vision of the final masterpiece, but they also have a deep respect for the process. Each strike of the chisel and every smooth stroke takes time, and any attempt to rush could damage the work. Similarly, God's work in our lives requires time and care. If we rush the process, we risk missing out on the depth and beauty that patience brings. The waiting seasons may feel long, but they are crucial for shaping us into who we are meant to be. Patience also allows us to endure the challenges of the journey. Transformation is not always comfortable. It often involves trials, setbacks, and moments of uncertainty. These experiences can feel like obstacles, but they are actually part of the process. Patience gives us the strength to persevere, trusting that even the difficult moments are working for our good. It reminds us that progress is not always linear, and that God is faithful to complete the work He has begun in us. In the waiting, patience also teaches us gratitude. When we slow down and embrace the process, we begin to see the beauty in every step of the journey. We recognize the small victories, the lessons learned, and the ways God is moving even when the final masterpiece is not yet visible. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, reminding us that God's presence and guidance are with us every step of the way. Another gift of patience is the opportunity for growth. Waiting stretches us, building resilience, humility, and faith. It deepens our relationship with God as we lean on Him for strength and guidance. Patience refines us, shaping our character and preparing us for the responsibilities and blessings that come with the masterpiece God is creating. Without patience, we may miss the growth that the journey is meant to bring. Ultimately, patience in the journey is about trusting the sculptor. It is about believing that the one who began a good work in you will carry it through to completion. The waiting may feel long, the process may feel hard, but the end result will be worth it. Just as a masterpiece takes time to create, the masterpiece of your life is being crafted with care and intention. So when the journey feels slow, when the waiting feels endless, and when the challenges seem overwhelming, remember this: patience is not a sign of weakness, but of faith. It is an acknowledgement that the sculptor knows what he is doing and that his vision for your life is greater than anything you could imagine. Trust the process, embrace the waiting, and know that in His time, you will emerge as the masterpiece He has always intended you to be. The vision of completion is a powerful force that drives purpose and perseverance. It is the image of what can and will be, a reminder that the present struggles, imperfections, and unfinished work are not the end of the story. When God begins His work in our lives, He does so with the end in mind. He sees us not as we are, but as the completed masterpiece we are destined to become. This vision is not only a source of comfort, but a call to trust in His process and His timing. Every great masterpiece begins with a vision. Before the first strike of the chisel, the sculptor has a clear image in their mind of what they aim to create. To others, the raw material may look unremarkable, but to the sculptor, it is filled with promise. In the same way, God looks at each of us and sees far beyond our current state. He sees the potential, the beauty, and the purpose that lie within. The vision of completion is already alive in His heart, even when we feel unfinished, unworthy, or unprepared. This vision is not a vague or general idea, it is precise and intentional. God does not make mistakes or create without purpose. Every detail of the masterpiece He is crafting in you has been carefully planned. From your unique gifts and talents to the trials you endure, everything is part of His design. The vision of completion encompasses not only what you will do, but who you will become, a reflection of His character, His love, and His glory. One of the most comforting aspects of this vision is the assurance that God will complete what He has started. Unlike human projects which may be abandoned or left unfinished, God's work is never incomplete. He is a faithful creator who sees His work through to the end. This means that no matter how far we may feel from the finished product, no matter how many times we stumble or fail, God remains committed to shaping us into the masterpiece He envisioned. His faithfulness is our foundation, giving us the courage to keep moving forward, even when the journey is difficult. The vision of completion also gives meaning to the process. When we face challenges, it can be tempting to view them as setbacks or obstacles. But in God's hands, every experience, good or bad, becomes a tool for refinement. The hardships we endure, the lessons we learn, and the growth we experience all contribute to the masterpiece He is creating. The vision reminds us that the chiseling, though painful, is necessary. Each strike of the hammer, each cut of the chisel, brings us closer to the completed work. This vision is not just for God alone to see, it is one He desires us to embrace as well. He calls us to trust in His plan and to hold on to the promise of what is to come. This requires faith, especially when the process feels slow or when the end result seems out of reach. It means choosing to believe in the unseen, to see ourselves not as we are, but as God sees us. When we align our perspective with His, we find strength and hope in the midst of uncertainty. The vision of completion also transforms the way we view ourselves and others. When we understand that we are works in progress, we become more patient with our own imperfections. Instead of being discouraged by our flaws, we can see them as opportunities for growth and refinement. Similarly, when we recognize that others are also being shaped by God, we are more likely to extend grace and understanding. The vision of completion fosters compassion, reminding us that no one is beyond redemption or transformation. Ultimately, the vision of completion is about becoming who we were created to be. It is about stepping into the fullness of our purpose and reflecting the glory of the Creator. When the work is finished, the masterpiece does not point to itself. It points to the skill and brilliance of the artist. In the same way, our lives are meant to be testimonies of God's power, grace, and love. When people see the transformation in us, they see the evidence of His work, and He is glorified. The journey toward completion may be long and challenging, but it is filled with promise. Every step, every struggle, and every moment of waiting is part of the process. The vision of completion reminds us that the pain is not permanent, the setbacks are not final, and the unfinished work is not failure. It is all part of the masterpiece God is creating. So hold on to the vision, trust in the one who is shaping you, knowing that He sees the end from the beginning. You are not an accident or an afterthought. You are a masterpiece in the making. The process may be hard, but the outcome will be worth it. In God's hands, the vision of completion is not just a possibility, it is a promise. Becoming a reflection of God's glory is the ultimate purpose of our lives. It is the culmination of His work in us, the result of His careful shaping, refining, and transforming. This divine calling is not about drawing attention to ourselves, but about pointing others to Him. When God's glory is reflected in us, our lives become a testament to His power, grace, and love. It is a profound and humbling truth. We, with all our flaws and imperfections, are called to shine as reflections of the Creator. To reflect God's glory, we must first understand what it means. God's glory encompasses His majesty, holiness, and perfection. It is the essence of who He is, His beauty, power, and goodness revealed to the world. When we talk about becoming a reflection of His glory, we are speaking of allowing His character to shine through us. It is not about our own achievements or efforts, but about His presence in our lives being visible to others. This reflection begins with transformation. By nature, we are like unpolished mirrors capable of reflecting light, but clouded by sin, selfishness, and brokenness. On our own, we cannot fully reflect the glory of God. But through His work in us, we are cleansed, restored, and made new. This transformation is not instantaneous. It is a process that takes time, patience, and surrender. God uses the circumstances of our lives, the joys and the challenges, to shape us into His likeness. Every moment is an opportunity for Him to refine us, removing what hinders His light from shining through. The process of becoming a reflection of His glory requires surrender. Just as a mirror must be positioned to catch the light, we must align ourselves with God's will. This means submitting our lives to Him, allowing Him to lead, and trusting His plan. It means letting go of pride, fear, and the desire for control. Surrender is not weakness, it's an act of faith, a declaration that we trust God to do what we cannot do on our own. When we yield to His hands, He molds us into vessels that can carry His glory. One of the most powerful ways we reflect God's glory is through our character. The fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control are evidence of His work in us. As these qualities grow and flourish, they reveal His presence in our lives. People see His love in our compassion, His strength in our perseverance, and His grace in our forgiveness. Our actions, words, and attitudes become mirrors that reflect His nature. Reflecting God's glory is not limited to extraordinary moments. It happens in the everyday. It is seen in the way we treat others, in our work ethic, in our responses to challenges, and in our commitment to live with integrity. When we choose to love when it's hard, to forgive when it's undeserved, or to persevere when it's easier to give up, we are reflecting God's glory. These seemingly small acts can have a profound impact, drawing others closer to Him. Another essential aspect of reflecting His glory is living with purpose. God has given each of us unique gifts and talents, and when we use them to serve Him and others, we glorify Him. Our lives are not meant to be spent chasing personal ambition or fleeting success. They are meant to fulfill His divine purpose. When we live with intention, seeking to honor Him in all that we do, we become instruments of His glory. Our work, relationships, and passions become avenues through which His light shines. The journey of becoming a reflection of His glory is not without challenges. There will be moments of doubt, failure, and struggle. But even in our weakness, God's strength is made perfect. Our imperfections do not disqualify us. They highlight His grace. When people see how God has transformed our brokenness into beauty, they are drawn to Him. Our lives become living testimonies of His power to redeem, restore, and renew. It is important to remember that reflecting God's glory is not about perfection, it is about progress. We are works in progress, and God is not finished with us yet. Each day as we walk with Him, we reflect a little more of His light. The goal is not to draw attention to ourselves, but to point others to Him. Our reflection of His glory is meant to inspire, uplift, and lead others to encounter His love. Ultimately, becoming a reflection of God's glory is about intimacy with Him. The closer we are to Him, the more His light shines through us. It is in His presence that we are transformed, renewed, and equipped to reflect His character. This journey is not about striving in our own strength, but about abiding in Him. As we do, His glory becomes evident in our lives, and we fulfill the purpose for which we were created. To reflect God's glory is both a privilege and a responsibility. It is a calling to live in a way that honors Him, a journey of transformation that points others to His greatness. Through His work in us, we become mirrors of His love, grace, and power, a living testament to the glory of the Creator.